The rain had just begun to fall when Armand Hale realized how close he was to losing everything that still mattered to him. It was daytime, the sky a heavy grey rather than black, the kind of afternoon where the world looks tired instead of dark, and the streets shimmered as if they were holding their breath. Armand sat behind the steering wheel of his aging sedan, hands tight, heart heavier than the clouds above. He was a single father trying to be enough for 2 children while quietly running out of strength, money and hope. That afternoon, he had no idea that stopping for a stranger in the rain would not only change his direction, but quietly rewrite his family's future in ways he could never have planned. Before the story continues, if you believe that kindness deserves second chances and that small good deeds can change lives, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Armand had not always lived on the edge of survival. Years earlier, his life had been full of simple stability. He worked as a site supervisor for a construction firm, came home tired but proud, and spent evenings helping his children with homework while dinner simmered on the stove. But life rarely asks for permission before it changes. When his wife passed away after a sudden illness, the ground beneath him collapsed. Grief arrived like a silent flood, and with it came responsibilities he was never trained for. Caring for 9-year-old Sammy and 6-year-old Leora alone meant cutting back on hours, missing promotions, and eventually losing his job altogether when the company downsized. Daytime interviews led nowhere, savings vanished quietly, and Armand learned how quickly dignity can erode when bills stack higher than hope. That rainy afternoon was supposed to be simple. He was driving back from a short-term delivery shift, one of several daytime jobs he stitched together just to keep food on the table. The windshield wipers squeaked in tired arcs, matching his mood. Traffic crawled and his phone buzzed with another reminder from the landlord, a message he could not bring himself to open. Sammy needed new school shoes. Leora's cough had lingered for weeks. Every problem waited patiently, knowing he had nowhere to run. Then, through the grey blur of rain, he saw her. She stood on the sidewalk near a bus stop, soaked, motionless, her coat too thin for the weather. She was not waving or calling out, she simply stood there, shoulders slumped, as if she had already accepted that no one would stop. Armand's foot hovered over the brake, then pressed down without permission from his mind. He did not know why. He only knew that he recognized that posture, the quiet collapse of someone who had run out of strength. He pulled over, rain tapping harder now, and stepped out into the damp air. The woman looked up slowly. Her name, he would later learn, was Ilara Finch. She appeared to be in her early 40s, with tired eyes that had seen more disappointment than comfort. Her hair was pulled back carelessly, dark strands clinging to her face from the rain. She carried no umbrella, no bag, nothing that suggested a plan. Armand offered her the dry seat of his car and the safety of moving forward, and though her hesitation was heavy, she accepted. As he drove, he noticed how she held herself, as if every movement required effort, as if she were carrying invisible weight. The ride was quiet, not awkward, just filled with the sound of rain and the low hum of the engine. Armand did not ask questions, and Ilara did not volunteer answers. There are moments when kindness does not need explanation, only presence. He dropped her near a modest office building downtown, one that looked more hopeful than impressive. She thanked him with a nod that felt deeper than words, and before stepping out, she paused as if wanting to say something more. But the moment passed, and she disappeared into the building, leaving behind nothing but damp air and a strange warmth in Armand's chest. That evening, Armand returned home to his small apartment. Daylight still filtered through thin curtains, painting the walls in soft grey tones. Sammy was working quietly at the table, while Leora colored pictures of sons and houses that looked sturdier than their own. Arman cooked dinner with practiced care, smiling when he could, hiding the fatigue when he could not. He did not mention the woman in the rain, but the image stayed with him. It reminded him that even when you have nothing extra to give, you can still give something. Days passed, then weeks. The rain stopped, the sky cleared, but Arman's situation did not improve. A promised contract fell through. A job interview ended with polite rejection. The pressure grew, tightening around his chest each morning he woke up before sunrise to search for work again. One afternoon, in the bright clarity of daytime, his phone rang with a number he did not recognize. Normally he would have ignored it. Something told him not to. The voice on the other end was calm, steady, and familiar in a way he could not place at first. It was Alara Finch. She explained that she had been standing in the rain that day because she had just left a meeting where her small non-profit organization had nearly collapsed. She had lost funding, staff, and direction, all at once. Arman's simple act of stopping, she said, had reminded her that people still cared, even when systems failed. She asked if he would be willing to meet her during the day to talk about work, any kind of work, because she remembered him mentioning his children. They met in a sunlit cafe with wide windows and chipped wooden tables. Alara looked different now, steadier but still worn. She explained that her organization helped families transition after sudden loss, offering practical support, not just counseling. She needed someone who understood struggle, someone reliable, someone real. The pay was modest, the hours flexible. It was not a miracle, but it was a beginning. Arman accepted, not because it solved everything, but because it offered dignity. Working with Alara changed Arman in ways he did not expect. He helped coordinate deliveries, manage schedules, and assist families who stood exactly where he had once stood, soaked and uncertain. He brought Sammy and Leora to the office sometimes, letting them see what it looked like to help others in daylight, not just survive. The children thrived in that environment, their laughter echoing softly through hallways that once felt empty. Slowly, Arman felt his shoulders lighten. Slowly, he started to believe that his story was not ending, only turning. Months later, the non-profit received renewed funding. Alara, once on the edge of giving up, now stood confident, grounded by a community that had grown from simple acts of trust. She offered Arman a permanent role, better pay, and stability. With that stability came a new apartment with larger windows, a small balcony where Leora planted flowers, and a kitchen where Sammy practiced cooking recipes he found online. Life was not perfect, but it was no longer fragile. One clear daytime afternoon, Arman drove the same road where he had once stopped in the rain. The sidewalk was dry, the bus stop empty. He parked the car and sat for a moment, hands resting loosely on the wheel. He thought about how close he had been to driving past that woman, how easily fear could have kept him moving. He realized that kindness had not just changed Alara's path, but had quietly lifted his own family out of the shadows. Just before this story ends, we have a small special request. Please comment the word hope if you believe one kind moment can change a life. Your comment helps spread this message to more hearts. As Arman watched his children play in the late daylight that evening, their faces relaxed, their laughter unforced. He understood something deeply. Kindness does not always return in the same form it is given. Sometimes it comes back as stability, sometimes as purpose, sometimes as a future that feels possible again. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and stay connected with Kindness Touch. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, reminding the world that even in ordinary daylight, compassion can quietly change everything.